I set the storm lantern beside Evan and Maya's photo. The wick trembles, finds itself, and steadies when the wind changes. Salt rides the air with candle wax and the damp, seaweed smell that clings to a black jacket. The ocean doesn't roar today. It breathes like a runner who's stopped, hands on knees, catching a slow, stubborn breath. 3 folding chairs in the front row sit empty, their metal frames glinting cold in the sun. The town showed up. My family, the ones who had every reason to fill those chairs, did not. A neighbor's little girl slips me a bundle of purple petunias. Mom says the color calms the waves. I nod, give her a blade-thin smile, and ease down into the sand, palms pressed to the cool, packed grit. Wind draws a long line in my ear, like a prayer that never quite finds its period. I hold Mia's yellow raincoat hood with the tiny brim that always fell over her eyes when she laughed. I fold it into a square and hug it close. It still carries that private smell, baby soap and first rain earth. Someone reads scripture. Someone else cries the way you cry around water, careful not to make a wave of it. They asked me to speak, and it feels like a grain of sand won't get out of my throat. Thank you for being here. I hear my own voice husky, water-warped guitar string. Evan used to say if the lantern's bright enough, you can always find your way back to shore. Today I'm lighting one for them and for anyone still out there trying to get home. The wind changes key. A hand rests on my shoulder, then disappears. I don't look up. I set the yellow coat by the frame. In the hush that follows, my phone buzzes. Once, then again. A lace of water curls over my ankles and chills a line straight through my bones. I check the screen, not curious, but because a life on the flight deck trained me to check, respond, stay awake. A text from my mother, don't be sad. We're on the mountain with the church group, better atmosphere for faith, more positive. There's a photo, the whole crew on a Blue Ridge trail, hair windblown, soda cups up, grins so big you could float them. Under it, a comment, choosing joy over gloom. I let the image sit on the glass, then lock the phone. The speech inside me collapses like wet drywall. When the service thins out, neighbors lean in with Tupperware compassion pie, mac and cheese, a quart of clam chowder. They say the soft things a coast has heard for 100 years. I thank each one, load the back of my car. Late sun cuts the half-mast flag into a silk ribbon. My shadow runs long to the shoreline, where a gull rasps in a voice that sounds like weather radio. The people go. The noise goes. It's just me, 3 stubborn chairs and the lantern. I lift it like lifting a sleeping child. When the gusts beef up, the flame tilts hard, then finds center again. I see Evan in the shed, head bent, hands oil dark, telling me it's old, not broken. It just needs someone patient. Since he and Mia left, I've traded the patience of flying for the patience of counting my own footfalls on this beach. The phone buzzes again, this time the church group's feed photos of pies, of dinner, of a marquee made of string lights that spells joy. I flick through them, my fingers so cold the glass doesn't quite know me. For a second I imagine what I'd say if they were here. Maybe less, so the quiet could do its job. Presence isn't measured by words anyway. Old Mr. Curtis, the knot-tying guy, taps up on his cane. Taylor, kid, leave your lantern here if you want. Wind'll kick up tonight, but she knows how to stand. I nod and set it between 2 small vases. The flame dips when the sun slides off the roof of a cloud, then brightens as if someone cupped a hand around it. Before I leave the beach, I swing by the post office. The clerk hands me a fat envelope from the bank, updated statement on the life insurance. My fingers snag on the flap like they've found an old stitch. Every number is a thread tied to half-built plans, Mia's scholarship fund. A starter kit for a storm drone team I've only said out loud once. A little room with a wall of wind maps. I carry the papers out back to a few weather-beaten benches. Wind drags over the tin roof like a helicopter idling somewhere you can't see. The phone lights as I sit. Caleb. Coffee? I've got a great idea. You'll love it. A cup emoji. A heart. 3 dots that feel like a small anchor dropped into deep water. I look at the text, the envelope, the salt silvering my fingertips. In my head, Evan laughs that bent, easy laugh you always plan the plan, even when the ocean doesn't. I breathe in slow enough to hear the air move through my throat. Dark falls quick on the outer banks, the kind of blanket rescuers wrap around shoulders. Streetlights flick on in a pale line. I unlock the car, set the envelope on the passenger seat, lay Mia's raincoat over it like a paperweight. The moon is a thin, sharp blade, a twin to the knife Nora uses to cut new net. I type one sentence, coffee works. Tomorrow I delete tomorrow, let my thumb hover, the cursor blinking like a far-off beacon. Let me check my schedule, I write instead, hit send, kill the screen. In the rear view, the beach recedes, 3 gnarly chairs holding their ground, Evan and Mia's frame catching a stubborn ribbon of lantern light. The old emptiness inside me stirs, but it isn't a pit anymore. It's a little cave that can hide a flame warm enough for a traveler to cup their hands over. And I know I'm going to need more than one flame. I start the engine and don't pull away yet. The clam chowder breathes out of the paper container, meeting the salt air mid-cabin kindness with no sermon tucked behind it. I set my palm on the yellow coat, thumb tracing the raised stitching of a little cloud. The phone hums once more, Caleb again, popping up next to the bank alert I haven't finished reading. You'll really like it, he writes. Because enough with the gloomy stuff, right? I silence everything, ease into drive, and follow the last streetlight down the block toward the thicker dark, and the conversation waiting for me at some coffee shop in a town built of sand and wind. First night trapping on the boat, the wind slapped straight across my nose like a reminder, no room for daydreamers out here. JP5 mixed with salt, engines drummed through my ribs. On the radio, the LSO's voice came in dry and exact, call the ball. I pushed power, held attitude, watched the meatball dance like a storm lantern getting kicked by gusts. Ball, I answered, throat desert dry and ice cold. Left eye on the lineup, right eye on the gauges, heart doing its own thing, beating to an imaginary arresting cable. The deck rose and fell like a breathing step. I held the picture, touched down, slid a hair and bolter. Horns wailed, hook missed steel. I went to power and flew it off. Someone keyed up, calm as a man watching rain from a porch, easy, bring it back. I turned downwind, came around. Second pass I caught the 3-wire. The jet groaned in that good way you feel up your spine. Cut pass, safe, the LSO said. Then nothing. Signing for my grade later, I noticed a guy by the taxiway, oil on his jacket, eyes squinting like he already knew this would be one of those stories that repeats. That was Evan. Not a pilot, not in my maintenance shop, just a guy dropping off a box of parts who sent word up, tell her I've got the landing video. The clip shook with wind, then smoothed into that clean catch. He'd captioned it, "You ride the storm like a local." I laughed in the briefing room, the sound pinging off the NATOP's board like a bolt hitting sheet metal. We met at a little place by the gate, low lights, wooden signs with fish on them. Evan talked about the ocean like family, ask the right way, and it answers with wind and fish. I talked about the carrier deck like a moving runway, disrespect it, and it'll teach you, with bruised knees. I didn't grow up speaking that language. My house had Wednesday night scripture allowed, Caleb at the piano for the church choir, and a mother who looked at me like a draft sneaking through the living room. I asked to take a lifeguard rescue course, Moms said girls didn't need that loud kind of thing. I wanted aerospace physics. Dad said save it for Caleb. I should teach Sunday school. Everything about me was too much. Everything about Caleb was a gift. When I got picked up for Navy flight, Mom asked, if you go in the water, who pulls you out? I said, I pull myself. That sentence made her sad for a month and got me a cot in the back shed, the door creaking like a miniature flight deck. Maybe that's why I recognized Evan, someone who understood discipline without preaching it. We married simple. A plank of driftwood for a table, strings of lights like low stars, the smell of shrimp and oak smoke. Ray still pulling rescue shifts back, then brought an old storm lantern. Put it in the middle, he said. Wind changes all it wants. The house stays lit. Evan squeezed my hand, murmured, if a storm comes, we don't pick a fight with it. We wait for a window and come home together. I nodded, thinking come home together was as easy as tying a knot. I didn't know some knots cinch fast and never quite come undone. That hurricane season, the Outer Banks changed its voice. The forecast drew a spiral monster bigger than the sky I usually flew. I had patrols scheduled. Evan said he'd check the rigs. Lose em now, lose the season. Morning of, I hung Mia's yellow raincoat, 2.5 years old then, always running with the hood flopped over her eyes on the porch. Evan kissed her forehead, looked at me, grinned. I'll light the lantern tonight. I shot back, leave it, I'll be home first. That sentence would turn to lead later. On deck the sky was pencil lead gray, the water a million glass shards. Radio thick with moisture, the LSO dropping anchor words line up power attitude. I trapped and launched, teaching my body a rhythm both mechanical and sacred. On the last cat shot, the clouds tore a hole open, and there was the curve of the earth, thin and clean, pretty enough to make you understand why people believe somebody's hand is on the controls. I wanted to call Evan, but discipline said wait. When offshore radio finally caught the fisherman's boat, static braided around Evan's voice, stray words, pulling winds, shifting, turning bow in my head, I said, wait. Wait for the window. The ocean's windows don't take orders like the boats. After that big one, the marinas felt like somebody had pulled a bone out of town. I took a few weeks. Not for the scrapes, you can see something deeper had snapped. Ray helped with arrangements. Neighbors brought the kind of warmth that doesn't audition itself. My parents and Caleb showed for a day, hugged me, said the book correct things. Mom, God brings the gentle home early. Dad, don't let sorrow blind joy. Caleb played a hymn until the strings looked tired. When they left, the house felt light the way a hollow thing feels light. I went back to Oceana to hand over my gear. In a dusty wing shop I found Ray's lantern, wick dead dry. I wiped the soot, sparked it, and the tiny flame felt like an answer arriving late. After that, every time I opened my notebook, I sketched a little triangle on a wavy line in the corner, a lantern at sea. I relearned how to breathe in clear weather and in radio silence. Some nights the dreams dragged me back to the deck. I'd hear power, add throttle, watch the yellow ball jump then settle, catch the wire, feel the scrapes sing, step off the jet, helmet under my arm, and stand alone at the bow with the certainty of a hand closing on my shoulder, Evans, or just the wind. I'd turn. No one. Ocean black as a mirror, reflecting a single small light, a lantern still burning in my chest. When I decided to separate and go home to the banks, deck habits came with me like salt lines on old boots, checklists, planning, control. I put my life into bins, Mia's scholarship, a small drone rescue project, a list of topics I would not discuss with my family until I had the muscle for it. I thought less talking would let the gap seal itself. Gaps are like water, the more you ignore them, the wider they get. After today's memorial, I pulled under the pines. Wind moved through like rotors around my ears, a sound a body remembers. I opened the photo of the lantern beside the frame. The screen lit on its own, Caleb calling. His name bobbed there like a life ring thrown toward a pull. The ringtone came in gentle, elastic waves, like a different shore asking if I was going to land there. I drew a long breath, slid a thumb to accept, and knew this wasn't just going to be coffee to take the edge off. The tea shop sits on the corner by the church lot, a white wooden box, salted yellow by years of wind. Chalk on a hanging sign reads, "Joy comes in the morning." Inside, mint and ginger peel up from old wood. I get there early, pick a table by the window with a clean line to the bell tower. Noon light lays a thin cloth across the tabletop. I unlock my phone and glance at the photo of the storm lantern beside Evan and Mia. My chest tightens, then lets go like a small wave that's worn itself out. The door chimes. Caleb walks in with Mom and Dad behind him. We all look up. A bead of silence hangs between the four of us like a rope no one's tied yet. Caleb hugs me quick, collar full of cheap church cologne. Mom sits opposite, eyes preloaded with a sympathy she keeps on hand for any occasion. Dad takes the chair beside her, smoothing his jaw, nodding like a man about to make a for the good of all decision. We just want to talk, enjoy, Mom starts, voice light as a shell. The retreat in the mountains really helped us shake off the gloom. She looks me straight in the eye, as if to say, be grateful we chose the light. Caleb clears his throat. I've got a beautiful idea, he says, flipping open a piece of poster board with a logo heart-shaped coffee cup over the words Fisher of Men Cafe. A Christian cafe, a place people choose joy. Scripture in the mornings, community groups in the afternoon, worship nights. A little soup kitchen out back when storms hit. What do you think? I study the page, the arrows and plus signs like flight line from a planning board, except every arrow leads to Caleb. Sounds like a lot, I say, even. Where's the money coming from? Dad smiles the prepared smile. The Lord has already provided, he says. Your life insurance remainder just $40,000 to start. You invest, and we're off. Your brother has the gift of music, your mother can do the books, I'll serve as pastoral advisor. Our family will bring healing to the whole neighborhood. He sets his hand flat on the table like he's bestowing a blessing. Something clicks shut in my head clean, airtight like a cockpit door ceiling. I set my mint tea down, the lid taps the porcelain. That money is for Mia's scholarship, I say, dropping each word like a round stone in water, and for a storm drone project I'm building. Not for a cafe. Caleb leans back, tries on a friendly smile. You're still holding on to the sadness, I get it. But this is God's plan to choose joy. Everyone said that day. He tips his chin toward the bell tower. The funeral was so gloomy. We want to bring light. Light doesn't need an espresso machine, I say, surprised at how steady I sound. Light needs timing and placement, like a storm lantern, and it needs responsibility. Caleb, do you have a financial plan? A signed lease? Operating cash? A risk sheet for when a hurricane snaps the coffee supply chain? Mom slides in with her stitched-together memory verses. Honey, don't let sorrow blind joy. Evan and Mia, they're in a better place. You should let go. Invest in something that brings cheer to the community. I'm investing in life, I say, eyes still on the Heart Cup logo. Post-storm drone flights find people. A scholarship gets kids into swim lessons and storm safety classes. That's the joy I'm choosing. Dad sighs, looking at me like I'm the child refusing vegetables. Obedience is a form of faith, too. This family needs you. It's only $40,000. The number drops in the middle of the table like an orphaned rock. I think of Mia's yellow raincoat, of JP5, of arresting cables that once took the weight off my jet and kept me from falling. I tip the lid of my mint tea, let the hot breath sting my eyes the safe way tears would. No, I say. No to the cafe. Don't touch Mia's fund. Caleb's face tightens, he pitches his voice soft. You're hoarding the money the way you're hoarding memories. The church is behind us. Pastor Paul will let us pitch on Sunday. You just have to agree. You'll see God will make a way. He can make a way with truth, I say. With statements, with contracts. With being present at your niece's memorial. Not with metaphors. Mom lays her hand on mine warm, weightless as a tissue. Don't be bitter. We chose joy that day because joy is antidote to darkness. A dreary atmosphere is not good for faith. A special kind of cold moves from my chest to my throat. I slide my hand back and set the still unread post office envelope on the table. This is what I'm about to spend on swim classes and medical gear for the rescue team. I say half Lee, half early truth. If you want, on Sunday I'll share storm safety procedures with the church. If you need cash, don't call me. Dad's brow knots. His voice drops a register. Don't defy your father, Taylor. Don't make yourself an orphan from this family. I laugh under my breath, not mean. Just the sound that happens when a rusted bolt finally shakes loose. I've been on my own a long time. I don't owe you $40,000 to purchase belonging. I stand, the chair barks against old wood. Caleb reaches like he might catch my sleeve, but his hand stops midair, the posture of a man praying who's forgotten the words. Outside, wind carries salt and waffle cone sugar from the bakery next door, two smells that almost never meet and, today, refuse to part. The bell tower shadows the street like a worn-out compass needle. I walk the porch rail, palm on my phone the way you check your own pulse. Behind me, Mom calls. Think about it. Joy needs partners. I don't answer. Across the street, Nora is flipping her closing early sign at the boat shop. She sees me and lifts a hand. I lift mine back and remember I haven't eaten since morning. My body is hungry, in a gentle way hungry for a sentence with no metaphor. Back home I tow my shoes off on the porch and hang Mia's yellow coat on the peg by the door. Late light pours through the glass and turns the room to honey. I make a fresh pot of tea and open the laptop. A folder named Stormlight sits on the desktop like a green blip on radar. I type a few lines: objective community training. Tools, drones, wind maps, first aid protocols. Ethos storm lantern. My email dings once, then twice. An unknown sender pops to the top with a name that looks pulled from a hat. Joy 4 Everett. Subject line, a warning for the church. Times New Roman, written in a shaky hurry, big and little letters punched in at random. Navy widow cashing out insurance, refusing to help the church. Spreading sadness, rejecting God's plan. Ask her about the money. Choose joy over gloom. I look up. The room dims a notch like a cloud sliding over the sun. On the peg, Mia's raincoat catches a small fleck of light. My spine straightens on its own. Outside, the wind changes voice, and I understand the next step isn't tea anymore. Ray's rescue shed sits at the end of a shell road where the wind has teeth and frayed flags click like shirt buttons. Gasoline, salt, wet rope, everything smells like a diagram of the word ready. He's swapping out a float on the aluminum skiff, forearms roped like mooring lines. I hold up my phone and open the Joy 4 Ever email. He reads it, face steady, gives one short nod the kind men give when they've heard louder noises than gossip. You're not alone, he says, voice gravel warm. Family can choose absence. Community doesn't. We answer this with truth and procedure. I lean against the scarred workbench, the one hung with rescue knives and duct tape. I'm not trying to turn private grief into a fight, I say, but they're turning it into doctrine. Ray snaps on the overheads, harsh white spills across the concrete like reverse fog. Then don't argue doctrine, he says. Argue data. He grabs a nylon-covered notebook, pages thick with block letters. I'll call Jax, Hannah, Lewis. They know how to build a timeline better than most folks think. Jax shows first, skin damp like he sprinted the block, medic bag thumping his hip. Heard there's a dignity emergency, he grins, then sobers at the email. Okay. EMS keeps precise timestamps on calls. If those hit the same window the retreat is posting photos, that's a kill shot. Hannah rolls in with a hard case stuffed with a laptop and insect-sized antennas. I'm not hacking anybody, she says, preempting it. But open source is an ocean. Retreat photos are public, and so is a lot of metadata if the poster didn't scrub it. Private groups leak via reshares. Lewis, hauling the boat up, Ray answers, right as Lewis shoulders through, PFD slung like a sash, bringing in the smell of wet wood. I'll ask the USSG Aux folks for the call times on Drifting Boys that day, he says. And I know Nora. Her shop cameras face the road to the beach lot. She was helping with overflow parking. That feed should show comings and goings. We crowd the chart table like it's an operating room. Ray prints 4 columns with a fat marker: time, location, evidence, witness. Under time he writes 2 anchors, memorial and retreat window built from photos and the posted schedule. Rules are simple, he says. Every conclusion traces to a concrete event: photo, receipt, call log, GPS. No people say. No parables. I nod. And we need a public forum, not a back porch argument. I look over. Think the church gives me a slot Sunday if I bill it as storm safety. Ray dials Pastor Paul from a contact list, written in big, stubborn letters, and puts him on speaker. Pastor, my niece Taylor wants to give a storm safety talk this week. Practical. Useful. Paul pours out like watered honey. Wonderful. We need joy and practicality. Taylor, 10 minutes before potluck. Sound good? I glance at Ray, nod. Yes, sir, I say. Pre/post-storm checklists, drone mapping, and how to call rescue right. He blesses, hangs up. Stage is set, Ray says. Now backstage. He task organizes like he's still in uniform. Jax, pull EMS logs from Memorial Day. Lewis, talk to Nora and USSG. Hannah, vacuum the retreat hashtag, grab screens before they vanish. Taylor, stack your statements, scholarship disbursements, drone deposits, anything Stormlight. We'll project it all at potluck. We grind until the light goes. The ceiling fan chops air like a sleepy engine. Hannah plants her laptop on a crate, windows blooming. Here, she mutters, typing. The retreat uses a branded hashtag. A few aunties cross-post to Instagram, which loves to keep location unless you kill it. Look at this map. Red pins crawl down the Blue Ridge Trail, one bright on the exact Memorial Day. Now time, she says, dragging to a photo of fat BBQ smoke. Poster comments fire up at lunchtime. See that wall clock? There, 12:07 on the cabin's built-in. You don't always trust a photo clock. But paired with EMS logs and Taylor's remarks time, you box in an impossible overlap. Jax cuts in, laying down the EMS sheet. He just pulled a traffic assist call for stranded tourists at the beach after the memorial. While folks here spun to help, retreat folks were literally grilling on a mountain. They couldn't be in both places. Lewis returns with a Ziploc holding a USB. Nora says this is for you, he tells me. Her camera covers the entrance road. From 10:0 to 13:0, no mom, dad, or Caleb. Also got a charcoal receipt from a Blue Ridge market, same day, on Caleb's card. Something unclenches in my shoulders. Not relief, resolve, finding a foothold. I lay the pieces into a clean storyboard, the lantern by the frame, the retreat's GPS timeline, the charcoal receipt, the EMS log, Stormlight expenditures, Nora's letter about her parents' rescue. On the corner of the table, Ray's lantern sits like a datum point, wick dry, ready. By dusk the wind has turned, the skiff hull drums like fingers waiting. Ray pours canteen tea, old mint curling up. Tomorrow I'm going with you to church, he says, not to brawl. To witness if needed. Folks love telling stories in parables. We'll tell ours in coordinates. I nod, say thanks. Hannah suddenly leans in. Hold up, eyes glued to the screen. Something just popped, her fingers sprint. A backup account just reshared a cabin video. They forgot the privacy. The frame jitters, laughter. Whoops. In it, Mom lifts a paper plate piled with ribs. Dad posted up at the grill. Caleb turns the camera on the room and shouts, choose joy. A big wall clock dangles behind them, the minute hand ticking like a metronome. Hannah freezes, zooms, freezes again. The 12 is a knife blade, the minute hand is past 10. She tweaks contrast one notch brighter. For a beat my face reflects on the screen beside theirs, 2 layers of reality stacked tight. Posted the exact day of the memorial, Hannah says, voice low. And that time isn't up for debate. Wind bangs the shed door heavy like a deck hatch slamming. Ray reaches and lights the lantern. The flame catches small, stubborn, gasping once before it stands. A strip of amber sweeps the wall of life rings. I look from the frozen frame to the flame and hear my own voice flat and clear the way. The LSO says power on Sunday. I'm putting this on the big screen. Outside the tide shoulders up, pushing lace-white foam along the beach. Hannah's laptop pings file saved. No high fives, no war cry. Just 4 of us looking at one another, understanding that after this, nobody gets to say choose joy like it's a shield, not in front of a projector and a lantern. Right then, my phone lights with a text from Pastor Paul, excited for your safety talk. And hoping you'll say a few kind words about Caleb's Cafe. I listen to the fan cut the air, pocket the phone. Potluck isn't going to be like any potluck they've had before. Last night's blow wasn't big, but it took our town apart like an old clock. Few sheets of tin peeled up, a pine snapped clean, the ocean pulled back and left pothole craters in the sand. Morning. We hauled gear cases to the makeshift pad behind the EMS station. Lewis checked the VHF. Jack staged the trauma kit. Hannah opened her laptop and drew a grid. I took the drone in both hands like a bird I'd finally gentled, hinges rough, metal cold. The wind carried seaweed and wet timber off the jetty, the smell of being ready. I knew that smell from the flight deck. Check, check. Ray crackled over the radio. Priority mapping South Nag's Head. Back roads flooded. EMS can't reach an elderly couple. I nodded and sent the drone up, rotors threaded into the wind, until both sounded like one steady breath. The screen filled with stitched squares of our route, quilt patches laid over a town with torn seams. We skimmed a strip of manufactured homes, yards pooled with salt water like ink stains. Hannah flagged ripped roofs. Jax read the power risk. At the end of a dead-end lane, the drone cleared a sagging roof, truncated chimney, porch cluttered with the salt-stiff shells. I dipped the camera and caught a wooden plaque on the steps, the Martins, 1968. The door was cracked, the curtain breathing. Hold, I said. We eased low and slid the lens through the gap. Inside was shadow and then a slow motion, an old hand waving like it was fanning a coal that shouldn't go out. Got people, I called, already hotkeying EMS. Elderly couple likely trapped, pushing coordinates now. Rolling, Lewis answered, already moving. Ray split off a John boat and a pickup. I kept the drone up as a marker, pulsing the nav lights to guide them in. The wind stepped up a notch, the frame shuddered, and my body went into a resting wire mode. Inputs measured, eyes reading data, heart off headset. Jax hit the door first, voice even, "It's us, we've got you." When Lewis and Ray walked the Martins out, the woman cradled a framed photo like a life ring. The man clutched an old storm lantern with no wick. I brought the drone down to my palm. Warmth bled through the airframe. For a beat I looked at his lantern and thought light isn't spectacle, it's endurance, stubborn as salt. EMS snapped scene photos and thanked us 6 ways. A local reporter showed with a mic cap still wet from rain. "New rescue tech?" she asked. I gave her the shortest truth. Not new. Just light put where it belongs. The camera panned up to a dry rectangle of sky where cloud had ripped patchwork blue, repaired. Nora swung in with her pickup and handed me a paper sack. Waffles still warm. "Your team saved my parents last week. Let me say thank you the right way." She tossed the sentence like a rope across the water that separates porches on this street, half side-eye at the sermon crowd, half anchor to the ground under my boots. By noon, we had a pop-up station in the parking lot, tarps strung, a sign that read "Post-storm check-in." Folks brought questions that were very American, and very daily: replace the old generator or ride it out. Who handles a gas line that smells like this? Will the house policy cover this mess? Jax and I answered off a checklist. Hannah let the kids fly a little trainer drone. Lewis sketched neighborhood rally points for king tide alerts. Ray kept a ledger of addresses that needed a second look. At the edge of the tarp I folded Mia's yellow coat, like a private flag only I could read. The piece aired that evening. Plain title: veterans use drones to help after storm. Comments were decent. Nora's stood out: "They saved my parents." Thank you. My shoulders dropped a few pounds with every line. In a different corner of the internet, the church crowd pushed a counter-current: choose joy, not gloom. Don't grandstand. Mrs. Whitaker posted a tray of pastries with "Joy is action, not machinery. Potluck this Sunday, come hear the miracle." Someone tagged #choose joy over gloom and looped "in Culeb." I looked at that hashtag like fresh paint over an old crack hides it. Sure, but it doesn't hold the house up. Sunday morning, I walked into the church hall with a USB in my pocket and Ray's lantern in my hand. The room was full: vanilla candles and weak coffee. Pastor Paul shook my hand with a TV smile. His eyes couldn't sustain. "We're excited for the practical share," he said, his other hand settling on Caleb's shoulder like a gentle intro. Mrs. Whitaker guarded the potluck sign-up, a tower of paper plates beside her. She glanced at the lantern like it was a prop. When it was my turn, Ray set the lantern by the mic. Lewis dropped the screen. Hannah plugged in. I drew a breath the way I do for Call the Ball and started. "Here's your pre- and post-storm checklist. Before shutter the doors, check the gas, stock 3 days of water, have EMS numbers posted. After avoid downlines, report coordinates, don't drive through water. Drones don't replace people, they open our eyes so people get to the right place." I ran the clip of the Martins, cut for privacy but kept the beat where the old man hugged the lantern. A soft "oh" rolled through the room, then the room forgot how to make noise. I closed with this: joy isn't avoiding gloom, it's finding people in it. A few small amens drifted up. Nora raised her hand from the back. "They saved my parents," she said. That sentence landed like a smooth stone and settled the water. Paul clapped 3 neat claps. Praise God for hands that work. Whitaker smiled thin and tipped her head. "Thanks for the share, but remember, community also needs cheerful space like Caleb's cafe. Let's not let practicality smother joy." She said practicality like a swear. Afterward, Caleb tugged me aside, voice soft. "Just one line from you. Endorse it, please." I looked at him, then at Paul and Whitaker, everyone with their fingers on the rudder. I shook my head. Today is rescue. Talk after potluck. His mouth pinched. His eyes flashed that old look from childhood, the one you get when scripture will be used to cover your receipt. Lunch spread like a map of smells: casseroles, mac and cheese, green beans, pecan pie shiny with syrup. People passed plates, thanked each other, asked small questions. Mrs. Whitaker circulated glossy flyers: choose joy over gloom, support Caleb's Cafe. Bottom corner box: special testimony, the Taylor family. The ceiling fan breathed like an old engine while I turned the cardstock over in my hands. My phone buzzed. Nora, the segments rolling in the neighborhood group. People want to support Stormlight. Want me to start a GoFundMe? I typed I'll handle it, then deleted it. I won't turn grief into a donation ticker. But kids need life vests, battery banks, printed maps. I wrote back just a thank you post. Tell folks if they need help after a storm, DM us. At the end, Pastor Paul climbed the riser, honey thicker in his voice. Next Sunday, a miracle potluck, with the Taylor family testimony: how to choose joy in the dark. The word testimony scratched the inside of my chest, like salt grinding into canvas. Caleb shot me a look, smile ready for the live stream. Whitaker tapped the mic at bring your best dishes and your support for the cafe. I packed the lantern, slid the USB deep in my pocket. Ray leaned in. Let them invite. Next week, we run the data. Hannah gave a thumbs up. Jax winked. I'll bring bandages, in case people get moved. Only Louis stayed quiet, watching the flag outside twist in the wind. He knows the hardest gust doesn't always come off the water. Sometimes it comes from the pulpit. In the lot, I popped the hatch and set Mia's yellow coat on the drone case. A gaggle of kids ran past. Miss, where's the little airplane? I laughed and pointed up. Tomorrow you'll get a turn. They whooped and scattered like foam. A choose joy over gloom flyer had been tucked under my wiper, the Taylor family testimony bold as a dare. I slid it under the lantern so the glow leaked through the cardstock, making the fibers stand out. A week is plenty of time to build a flame. The phone buzzed again. Joy forever. This time potluck is when the truth will shine with or without you. I stared at the line and admitted it was accidentally right. Only difference, their truth runs on metaphor. Mine runs on time and coordinates. I turned the key. In the mirror, the fellowship hall shrank to flag, roof, and a slant of sun on the steps like a short runway. In a week, I'd park a projector at the end of that runway. And I'd keep my words short, let the data fly the approach. The church conference room smells like weak coffee and fresh glue. On the whiteboard, Mrs. Whitaker has block letters big enough for a parade joy project. Arrows everywhere, each landing on cafe music testimony. I take the back chair. Ray sits beside me. Hannah balances a laptop on her knees. Jax flips open a notebook. Louis is the quiet of a harbor at slack tide. Mom and Dad sit shoulder to shoulder with Caleb. Pastor Paul stands in the middle like a talk show moderator. We will not let gloom lead us, Paul begins, honey poured through a funnel. We choose joy through action. Caleb, tell us about the cafe dream. Caleb pops up the first slide: heart-shaped coffee cup, fisher of men in a swoop. He's memorized the lines. Scripture mornings, free soup at noon, worship nights. A cheerful photo spot for locals and visitors. We need 40,000 to launch. And, he pauses, aiming an eyebrow at me, the Taylor family will share a testimony next Sunday. How to choose joy over gloom. I set my pen down and lean toward the mic, but Paul beats me to it. Before Taylor speaks, let me address the chatter. Some have complained about our absence from a certain service. He smooths his smile. But the Lord placed us on the mountain that day to learn joy. Whitaker fans glossy flyers across the table: choose joy over gloom, support Caleb's Cafe. Bottom corner box: special testimony, the Taylor family. The paper is still warm. The ink smells like new paint hiding water damage. I clear my throat. If we're calling it a testimony, I've got one. It's not a parable, it's time and coordinates. Ray rests a hand on my chair. Jax tilts his head. Hannah taps a key. Louis looks dead center. Taylor, Mom cuts in, voice soft as a tissue: let go. Don't let the past blind joy. Evan and Mia, they're home now. We must choose the light. Light doesn't blink at truth, I say. It stands and faces data. I look at Paul. Next Sunday my piece is storm safety and a timeline that shows where the retreat was during the memorial. I'm not accusing anyone. I'm showing it. The room does a one-beat mute. Whittaker crooks a smile. You'll make the sanctuary a courtroom. People come to potluck for joy, not spreadsheets. People come for honesty. Ray answers, voice low but tall. Joy is not an exemption from responsibility. Paul raises both hands. Let's keep our hearts soft. Taylor, folks are tender. The language of data can shame. We won't name names, Hannah says, polite and iron. We'll show time windows, public photos, EMS logs, receipts, things anyone can verify. Dad leans in on his palms. Your mother and I apologized for not being there. The Lord led us to the mountain. Don't dig up the gloom. I shake my head, level as holding the 3-wire. I'm not digging. I'm peeling paint off a wall of debt and absence. If you want 40 grand from the community, you stand under the community's light. Caleb sags, then snaps tight like an overtuned string. You got insurance money and strangers' praise. We're building joy. God's plan is a cafe, not drones. He says drones like the word is made of tin. Lewis speaks for the first time, smooth as water slipping past a hull. Last week we found the Martins with a drone. They're church members. The joy we choose is people alive. The room's pressure shifts, like wind sliding sideways into a house. Whittaker takes a half step back. Paul holds the center. All right. Taylor, you get 10 minutes on storm safety before potluck. As for the testimony, be wise. Don't harm anyone. I nod. I'll be careful in a pilot way, checklist, timeline, proof. I won't use gloom or joy as stand-ins for present or absent. Ray opens his book, tasking to Sunday. Taylor, finalize the deck. Hannah, save backups off-site. Jack, sit, prep medical in case anyone is overcome. Lewis, get Nora's written statement. Whittaker snorts. What is this, a military operation? Ray closes the book. Yes, safety is an operation. The meeting dissolves into a prayer so sweet it aches your teeth. Paul asks for overflowing joy. In my head I ask for overflowing candor. When we stand, Mom tucks a flyer in my palm. Take this, it'll make your heart warm. The cardstock rasps my fingertips like an arresting cable pulling tight. Out in the hall, Nora waits with a thin envelope. Letter from my parents, she whispers. They want to say thank you. I'll read it if you need me to. I squeeze her hand, feeling a rope that isn't blood keeping me upright. That afternoon we rehearse at Ray's shed. Hannah tightens the deck open on the lantern beside the frame, then the retreat map with pins, then the charcoal receipt on Caleb's card, then the EMS log, finish with Stormlight expenses and Nora's letter. 1 clean line per slide. Jack says, no preaching, no verdicts. Just lay it on the table. Ray adds, and at the end, dim the lantern slow so they remember light can come from inside too. That night Paul texts, keep it short. Don't go deep on family. The church isn't here for a fight. I reply, I'm not arguing. I'm presenting. A minute later Caleb pings me, if you embarrass us, we're done. Just say one supportive line. I look at the bubbles like a wave pretending to retreat so it can hit harder. I type, you're my brother, not my savior. Close to midnight, I sit alone with Mia's yellow raincoat across my lap and the lantern by the window. Wind lifts the curtain. The flame's shadow ticks on the wall like a heart monitor. I add a footer to the deck. Joy doesn't replace presence. Faith doesn't replace responsibility. Family doesn't replace truth. I shut the lid and blow lightly on the wick, not to kill it, just enough to let it find center again. Right before sleep, my phone buzzes. Hannah has sent a new screenshot, a backup account, resharing a closer cabin clip, Mom and Dad laughing at the grill, Caleb toasting, a chalkboard behind them, choose joy, skip the gloom today. Timestamp reads the exact day of my service. Hannah locked. We'll project it Sunday. I stare at the freeze frame, listen to the wind change voice, and know there won't be room for parables at this potluck. Only time and coordinates. The fellowship hall smells like casserole and weak coffee, soft air that makes hard sentences easier to say. Folding tables run long, a pan of mac and cheese shining like a gold pond. A banner on the wall reads choose JOY in ocean blue paint. Beside it, a white screen waits. Ray sets his storm lantern at the foot of the lectern, a small flame holding steady like a quiet sentence with a backbone. Hannah plugs in the USB. Lewis snakes an extension cord. Jax checks the first aid kit. Like this is a drill. Paul shakes hands with a TV host's cadence. Mrs. Whitaker stands behind the paper plates, watching me like she's sweeping for mines. When it's practical share before potluck, Paul calls me up. I set my palm on the edge of the lectern the way I set a hand on the edge of a flight deck before a trap. We brought data, I start. The conclusions are yours. Ray bumps the lantern one notch brighter, amber cutting through vanilla. First slide the lantern next to Evan and Mia's photo. This is how we remember, I say. Not to wallow, but to remember right. The room goes still. Somewhere behind me a spoon taps a pot like a second hand. Click. A map of red pins threads the Blue Ridge Trail like a spine, each dot a place and time. That's the retreat's hashtag, I say. Public posts. Anyone can see them. A video rolls, cabin room, laughter, a ribbon of BBQ smoke. Hannah freezes on a wall clock. I drift the cursor until 12:07 gleams in the glass. A few people let out a low O. Paul clears his throat, punctuation more than correction. A receipt from a Blue Ridge grocery, charcoal, sauce, pies charged to Caleb's card. Date time. Store confirmed. I rid like a pre-flight. Click again. EMS log traffic assist at the beach after the memorial. Lewis tilts his head. We were on the shore then, he says, and the retreat per GPS and photos was in the mountains. Chairs shift. Nora lifts a hand. Last week Taylor's team pulled my parents out of a flooded house, she says. They didn't ask what church I go to. The room's color changes a shade, like thin clouds slipping off the sun. I put up Stormlight expenses, drone deposit, kids' life vests, evac maps. The insurance left, I say, goes here. Not into a cafe. Mrs. Whitaker coughs into the mic she's already reached for. This isn't a courtroom, she says. We're here to celebrate and to hear a testimony about joy. Ray borrows the mic, light as lifting a flapping fish. Celebrate, he says. But set a place at the table for truth first. He parks the mic and pats the lantern like it's a kid's shoulder. Paul steps between currents. Thank you, Taylor, for the practicals, he says. Now Caleb will share the healing vision for the cafe. Caleb moves up with a sheet of paper lit from below. He recites sentences I know by heart: morning scripture, noon soup, worship nights. His voice shakes. When he reaches the Taylor family chooses joy over gloom, the room makes a sound like a worn brake touching metal. I raise a hand. One line, I say, choosing joy is fine, but don't use joy to cover absence. No applause, not silence either. The kind of quiet that has mass, dropping through pews like stones into a still river. Dad stands, shoulders narrower than I remember. I was wrong, he says, eyes steady. I wasn't there. I'm sorry. But don't turn this house into a place for tearing down. Mom holds a tissue, face half soft, half stiff. She looks at the lantern, then away. Paul touches Dad's shoulder. We embrace in grace, he says. Embrace after? Jax murmurs, but you can't hug a timeline. A few quick laughs blink and die. Whitaker lifts a glossy flyer, choose joy over gloom, support Caleb's cafe. She starts it down the aisle. It makes a few seats and settles, stranded in slack water. Last slide, one sentence on black. Joy doesn't replace presence. Faith doesn't replace responsibility. Family doesn't replace truth. I kill the projector. Ray dials the lantern down a hair and lets it find its own center. The room isn't brighter, but it's clearer. So Paul tries to stitch it. Let's pray and eat. Before he can, Nora steps up, harbor voice carrying. I don't know about a cafe, she says. I know Taylor's team saved my parents. If you want to support something, support Stormlight with time, teach kids to swim, pack first aid kits. Don't just like a post. A few amens ring fuller. Whitaker flushes like someone cranked the oven too high. After the heaviest silence in the room is finally spoken, people move, ladles dipping, conversations waking. Paul keeps Caleb close, saying something in a low thread. Dad glances my way and stalls. Mom tries, did you eat? In a voice thin as a paper edge. I'm not hungry. I'm craving air with nothing sweet in it. We coil cables and pocket the USB. Ray shields the lantern's heart from a draft. Hannah snaps her case. Lewis shoulders the screen. Jax tucks the kit away. We look like a crew that just hauled somebody over the gunwale, tired. Steady. At the door, Paul stops me. Taylor, thank you, he says. Next time, maybe gentler. I nod. I was as light as I could be. What's heavy is the truth. Outside, the wind carries pecan pie and salt, a strange pair that goes together tonight. I set the lantern on the passenger seat. Caleb appears at the nose of my car, hands in pockets, eyes slipping off mine. He comes close the way a man walks into soft sand. "Hey," he says, breath still up. "Can you let this go? Not 40, just 10,000. Help me open and I'll pay it back." "Don't tell anyone," he swallows. Stares at the asphalt. I messed up. I owe. If I don't open next month, I'm in trouble. Wind combs the pines. The needles scratch like dry rain. I look at Caleb, those familiar eyes that once tucked scripture over receipts, then down at the canvas tote on the seat. The edge of Mia's yellow coat shows, the stitched little cloud catching the lot light. In my head, the LSO's voice comes from far-off power. I lay my hand on the door's cool metal. The answer's already there. I let it wait one beat, like giving the lantern a second to stand on its own before I speak. Caleb stares at his shoes like a kid practicing a grown man's posture of remorse. "Not 40, he repeats. "Just 10, I'll pay it back." Promises from drowning people sound like inflatable boys pop to the surface for a second, then hiss flat. I lean against the car door and rest my hand on the storm lantern riding shotgun. The metal's warmth keeps me near shore. "Caleb," I say, slow enough to hear wind thread the syllables, "I forgive what you said in the group, and the way you skipped the service under pretty church words. Forgiveness isn't payment. Mia's fund is not an ATM. You need to face the debt and the habit of using faith to hide receipts." His eyes spark, then cave into a kind of tired. I see the boy who used to hide his hymn book under the pillow and peek up to see if Mom and Dad were watching. "I'm not abandoning you," I add, "but I'm not feeding the hole." He nods weak, guttering candle, and goes fast, like he's afraid he'll change his mind if he lingers. I sit with a pad of blank paper on the steering wheel. Ray taps the window and hands over a bottle of water. "Hard part isn't presenting the data," he says. "It's keeping the boundary after you do." I nod. "I know." He lifts the lantern. "Then keep this close. It knows how to stand back up when the wind shifts." That night at home, I pull a wooden box from the lowest drawer. Photos, a shell Mia pocketed. A stack of pages titled "Letters I Won't Send." I write Caleb, "I remember you playing Blessed Assurance a beat slow because you were scared of missing a note. You grew up still scared of missing praise, money, the safe side of the room. I forgive you because I don't want to live chained to a rusty anchor. But Mia's money is a lantern, it lights the lost. It isn't for warming hands. When you're ready to do the books, face the debt, and come volunteer with Stormlight, I'll save you a spot. Until then, no is a complete sentence." I slide the page under Mia's yellow raincoat and feel an arresting wire in me give back a bit of spring I thought was gone. Next morning, I stand at the beach cemetery. The sky is the kind you get after the coast has cried itself out everything sharp. I bring sea daisies, a lit storm lantern, and a stormlight patch Hannah stitched, a small light cutting a path through a cyclone. I set the patch on the stone, the lantern beside it, and give Evan and Mia a potluck debrief like a harbor report: times, coordinates, wind ranges, how the boat found its window. I tell them about the Martins, about the kids grinning over the trainer drone, about the letter I won't send. A short-tailed gull drops in, cocks its head, like it's verifying route of travel. My phone buzzes. "Nora shops yours tonight banner and all Stormlight Initiative community training." Me okay. Lewis, bringing 2 from ski Ox. Jack's building sample first aid kits. Hannah intro deck done, QR for signups is live. Ray just sends a little lantern emoji. I stand a minute longer, watch the flame wobble and stand, and realize my job isn't to catch wind, it's to teach people to read it. By evening, Nora's shop glows warm as the belly of an upside-down boat. We stretch a banner, line up folding chairs, tape neighborhood rally point maps by district. Mia's yellow coat hangs on a peg by the door, shorter than I remember, like a memory that no longer hits the floor. People trickle in: mechanics, a teacher, an old lady with chain glasses, a herd of curious kids. My parents hover at the back, then step inside. Mom's holding a bag of cookies, Dad's hands are empty. Their faces move around the room like guests in their own old house. I start. Stormlight isn't an organization, it's a habit. Every home has a lantern, a checklist, and a caller when help's needed. We've got drones, But the first thing that flies is information. I run how to throw the main breaker, how to tie a bowline, how to pin coordinates on your phone. Jax works chest compressions on the mannequin. Lewis teaches how to spot a rip current from the shore. Hannah shows folks how to read wind advisories. Nora serves clam chowder, the only comfort food allowed without a speech attached. Who wants to be on the first volunteer roster? I ask. Hands go up. Dad's among them. I want to build what you're building, he says small. Mom sets the cookies down and says nothing, but her eyes keep drifting toward the yellow coat. A minute later she steps over, touches the hem with 2 fingers, then snatches them back like the fabric's cold water. Can I come watch next week? She asks. I keep my voice flat as calm water. The doors open when truth is respected. You came today. Keep walking next week. She nods, not the ad-ready tearful nod, more like a single quote mark on a line, signaling the next sentence is the one that matters. We finish with a volunteer map dense with names. Nora rolls the garage door. Wind pours through with the sea's low radio in it. I dim the lantern slowly the way Ray taught, so people can see light isn't gone, just stowed. The curly-haired kid, the one who asked about the little airplane, hugs Mia's coat. It's pretty, she says. I ruffle her hair. It's a guide. Late, back at the Pineline house, I open the windows and let the salt air dry the soft spots. The lantern goes on the shelf next to a photo of Evan Squint smiling. On the table a Choose Joy flyer still sits. I flip it and write in marker Choose Truth, then Joy. I pin it beside the Stormlight patch. The phone lights. Caliba, I'll go to Nora's accounting class. No loans. Just work. Me okay. No emoji. No exclamation point. Before bed I open letters I won't send and add a line under Caleb's Joy can be late, but it walks straight when there's light. I close the cover and breathe the wick out. The flame withdraws to a pin of red, like a lighthouse eye that's stared down night long enough. I lie back and listen to the wind scratch the imaginary hull outside. Tomorrow I'll teach the kids the butterfly, not the kind that holds tight and still pulls free easy, so they learn ropes aren't made to drag people down. Out there, the ocean breathes on its own. In here, the lantern is still warm. Between the two, I'm no longer falling. I'm standing on a new strand where stories start with truth, and only then choose joy.